Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Joined us. This is Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV. With me on the show this morning, I have Kwasi Pratt Jr., who's the managing editor of the Insight newspaper. Kwasi, good morning. Also with me on the show this morning is Eric Amwakuchum, who's a part of the government communications team and is also a member of Team Baumia. Good morning.
Good morning, Randy.
Rick, right. Okay. So we'll start off with something. There's a lot of debate and arguments about a recent poll. We'll deal with that shortly. But I've seen an interesting story. And this is an interview granted by a lawyer, Xavier Kuje, who is the PRO of the Ghana Bar Association. And he says that our laws against corruption also facilitate corruption. Now, the position of Xavier Kuje really is about he raising concerns about how effective the Constitution, the 92 Constitution, is in combating corruption in the country. And he's expressed strong reservations by existing legislations, asserting that they inadvertently facilitate corruption rather than curbing it. He highlighted a fundamental flaw in the legal framework, emphasizing the equal culpability of both the giver and the receiver of bribes. According to Kuje, this approach creates a disincentive for individuals to report corruption, as they risk incriminating themselves in the process. Quote, our laws on corruption itself facilitate corruption, and I'm convinced that unless we really look at them, we will not go far in the fight against corruption. If you have a law that says the giver and the taker of corruption are equally guilty, how do you expect to fight corruption with such a law? Do you think I'll bribe somebody and go and report that I've given a bribe when I know that they will arrest me and arrest the person as well, charge both of us and possibly jail us? I don't think that will happen. And corruption has been one menace that has impeded Ghana's development for decades, and many attempts so far have yielded little results. But the PRO on the Tuesday show noted that the laws need to be re-evaluated, and also there needs to be a paradigm shift in societal principles. He lamented a societal shift where values and principles have been eclipsed by a relentless pursuit of financial gain, and he called for a re-evaluation of societal norms and a return to cherished values, suggesting that such a recalibration is imperative to address the root cause of corruption. Quote, he says, and I've also said that it appears as a people we have unconsciously limited our definition of success to material gains. If it is not money, then you are not successful. As the average Ghanaian who is successful, and that person will begin to mention material things. So I think we've lost our values, and we have to really look at it, because as individuals who make up society, if we have principles and values that we cherish, we shouldn't be having some of these problems. And his remarks come after the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono outlined a vision for the judicial arm of government, which included a comprehensive review of ethical practices to restore integrity to the legal system. Now, Kwasi, so there's this part of giver and taker of being guilty. He says that, look, it is counterproductive, and it does not facilitate the fight against corruption. The second part, which he raises, is about values. I've asked that question a few times here. That, for example, in Tree, they say that Obia Bobra, when we want to describe somebody who's accomplished, it's Bobra. I'm sure that when you were growing up, what the variables that were used to determine Obia Bobra and what is used today, of course, have completely changed. You know, and I guess that's what he's speaking about. That maybe back in the days, you can even show experience with us. Back in the day, they say Obia Bobra, who's the kind of person that we're looking at. And today, when they say Obia Bobra, is it about a fleet of cars? Is it about the number of houses the person says they own? Is it about what they say they have? And obviously, whatever a society cherishes is what its people aspire towards. I don't know what you make of these issues.
Well, first of all, I want to start from the position of public commentary on corruption. And I must say that a lot of the public commentary is completely misplaced.
Why do you say so?
Yeah, because when we talk about corruption, we appear to say that it is the reason why we are underdeveloped, or the reason why things are not working in our country. It may be a contributing factor, but the commentary which makes it look like corruption is the main problem, I think is a false narration. One, corruption is a global problem, not defined by geography. It is not defined by ethnicity and so on. And even the Western countries that some people admire so much and claim that they have developed and so on, there have been major incidents of corruption. Now, if they are able to make the kind of progress that some people believe they have made, in spite of the existence of corruption, then something else must explain our underdevelopment. You understand? And I think that the factor which is responsible for underdevelopment may include corruption. But the main problem is the system of socio-economic development we have adopted. I mean, you take a country like Britain. Not too long ago, some members of the House of Lords were actually indicted for stealing the British taxpayers' money to buy pornographic materials. I don't think that we've had any such case in Ghana before. You understand? So I want to position this discussion on corruption, properly. Now, the claim that our laws on corruption are defective because both the giver and the taker are equally responsible, under the law, I think is a bit false. You do know that people who are engaged in the commission of crime, if they decide to assist investigations and provide evidence, sometimes they do not become accused persons, but they are prosecution witnesses. I'm sure all of us are familiar with that. So that would suggest that if there's a giver of bribe or a taker of bribe who is willing to assist in investigations and prosecutions and so on, he may be given some indemnity by the Attorney General. So that statement is also not completely true. Then there's the issue of values. I mean, Randy, when you live in a capitalist society, where the extraction of value, surplus value, and what comes with it is an indication or provides an indication of your status in society. What do you expect? What do you expect? The capitalist society is for the rich. How much value you are able to extract and keep for yourself, how much surplus value you are able to extract and keep for yourself, determines your status in society. So clearly, if we live in a society like this, the values will be different. We live in a society where we still, place a lot of value on inheritance in everything. People become chiefs not because they are the wisest people in our society, not because they've made more sacrifices for the development of our society, but simply because of their bloodline. If you have a system like this and this is the value system you have, why do you complain? Why do you complain? I mean, the whole foundation of society is wrong. We need to challenge the very basis of our society. I mean, all of us do know of the principle of the divine rule of kings. I'm sure we all know that quite clearly. So there was a point in history, not too long ago, where actually kings, and if you like, chiefs, were believed to be the representatives of God on earth. Representatives of God on earth, simply by their bloodline. So I think that we need to reorder our society if we think that these values are wrong. New values should only come from the reality of the production relations that we have and the altering of the production relations. That is what will bring you value. Sermonizing, pontificating, and so on does not bring values to society. Values are determined in the cost of production and distribution. You understand? So these are my views.
All right. Okay. Let me hear you.
Well, anyway, good morning to you. Good morning. I haven't been here for a few weeks.
Yes.
Truth of the matter is that I think that the concept itself suggests that he is looking at it from the perspective of, okay, if someone gives out a bribe, then they're not inclined to go and actually report that particular incident because then they're also found culpable. So, I mean, we can debate that. I also feel that, I mean, there's a lot more to this corruption conversation that we normally don't have because of the politics of it and how we want to sensationalize some of the things. I mean, so if you juxtapose what happens in the corporate environment, even when an audit is done, that audit is not done to look for, if you like, things that are not good, but to even find ways of making sure that the processes that the organization has adopted is actually effective. And in our case, what tends to happen is that you read the Auditor General's reports, there's a Public Accounts Committee, and if you take it from even 1992, every single year, it's almost as if that the same things occur. You can close your eyes and you'll see that the same issues are occurring. And I'm of the view that even when it comes to these things, there's just a certain aspect of administrative, if you like, lapses and, inefficiencies that we don't really talk about because I think that the corruption aspect becomes the focus. One of the issues, for example, is the issue to do with procurement, where we have state institutions that are, by dint of its setting up, are there to provide specific services to even the public sector. And for some strange reason, we've collapsed these entities. When I say collapse these entities, nobody gives them any kind of support. We have the Ghana Supply Commission, we have the Ghana National Procurement Authority, we have all of these entities that were supposed to have played significant roles when it comes to supporting other public sector institutions, when it comes to issues to do with procurement, that for one reason or the other, we haven't given the right support and the resources to be able to operate. And so every entity has become almost like a procurement organization. And so you would always have challenges and issues where people probably even at the, either at the local government level, at the agency level, or at the ministry level, do not have the requisite procurement skills, or even are not up to scratch with what modern procurement practices are. You can put a law together for all you want, but if you don't have personnel within those organizations who will be able to go through a process to ensure that we are actually getting value for money, you will not get that. I'll give you an example. There are certain instances where the entity tender committee and all of these other committees and everything, once they even sit down and they go through the processes, the amount of allowances that goes to these entities is actually more than what they are procuring. So even the bureaucracy of it itself causes challenges. So for me, sometimes some of the issues that we face as a country is not dealt with because we focus too much on the politics of it and not look at it from maybe a development standpoint as to, okay, what are the systems, processes, and things that we can put in place to forestall these challenges. I'm going to wait for a day where even the Auditor General report would come back and say, in last year, we found A, B, C, D in this organization. We felt that there were challenges with these processes. These are the things that we put in place. We've gone back to do an audit to ascertain that these processes are being adhered to, reporting lines are being re-engineered, and we are not finding challenges with these things anymore. But you realize that the focus really goes to finding a public officer somewhere who either has misappropriated 30,000 cedis or has gone through a procurement practice that suggests that there's corruption because they have not provided the right receipts and all of those things. And then we spend valuable man hours even using Parliament's limited time and resources to go through these things. So for me, I think that we can do a multi-pronged approach and find solutions to some of these corruption practices. For example, even issues to do with the deployment of technology. Now, if you deploy technology and you put systems and processes in place, then it actually takes out the human factor. You know, and there are clear examples of agencies and organizations that are working. For example, a couple of days ago, I went to the DVLA premium service because I couldn't find my driver's license. Within 45 minutes, I had a brand new license printed out. Now, hitherto, people would go stand around the DVLA office, find a Goro person, and pay actually more than how much I paid, right? And they probably will even come out with a fake license to start with. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to pick and choose what we want in terms of, do we, as a people, want to actually avail ourselves to some of these changes, or we want to maintain the status quo. For example, another example is even this issue to do with passports. And it's almost as if that it's almost okay for the politician to be tagged and seen to be the one that being corrupt. Somebody was on record to have said that he's paid 2,000 cedis to somebody to procure a passport. And then you have a system that says, okay, the 50 cedis and 100 cedis that we are paying now is making the process take a lot more time. It is not efficient, it's not sustainable. The cost of printing and all of these things have gone up. And so let's get to a point where if you pay 500 cedis, 600 cedis, or whatever, you get your passport in a week or two, right? Then we have challenges with that. However, the same people are happy
that the increment in price of passport does not take away all those bottlenecks.
No, I agree. I agree. But what I'm saying is that once you,
issue.
so the issue to do with the processes, the inconvenience, the bureaucracy, the middleman issues, right? So, for example, if we have a system where the NPP flag bearer, the vice president, says that, okay, now that we have a Ghana card, and a Ghana card has captured every single detail that is required for you to get a passport, then let's move away from that other bureaucracy of people going to stand in a queue and everything, and use the Ghana card as a basis, a source document to get your passport, right? So then it takes away that other element of going to stand in a queue, have to pay somebody to even navigate a queue to be able to get these things. So for me, I think that, I'm digressing a little bit, but I think that if we adopt technology, we institute processes and also analyze the issues properly, right, in terms of, okay, how is it that this is a local assembly, every single year they find themselves at the Public Accounts Committee for the same issues. It's either a human error, an administrative error, or pure incompetence and negligence. And if that happens, then we should also see that these persons are being penalized. Okay. They are being...
Gentlemen, let's hold on to this issue. We'll come back to it.
Because I wanted to make a comment on the Ghana card issue.
We'll come back. We'll come back to this issue. However, earlier on I indicated that there's a lot of arguments about polling. And it has to do with the recent Global Info Analytics poll. And the daily graphic on its front page speaks about graphics, your Ghana, my Ghana program, voters prioritize economy, roots and jobs. And then on page 18 of the same newspaper, they speak about NPP can't break the 8. That's according to the research. But the campaign team of New Patriotic Party flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has firmly dismissed the findings of a survey conducted by Global Info Analytics, which purportedly places the NDC flag bearer John Romani Mahama ahead of Dr. Bawumia in the upcoming December polls. In a press briefing held in Accra, Dennis Miracles Abuaji, Director of Communications for the Dr. Bawumia campaign, asserted that the survey results do not accurately represent the prevailing sentiment on the ground. He further remarked that the survey appears incomplete and fails to provide adequate insights into the electorate's opinions, indicating deficiencies in its methodology and execution. Quote, there is not a single organization that is an authority over electoral polling, and we have about 4 to 6 of them that we work with. And unfortunately, this particular poll you reference is one that we have never received the indices that they use. We don't have much that we can do about that particular one because it doesn't tell much and looks scanty and really doesn't tell of a polling that was done properly. And if you check the graphic story, Mr. Richard Ahiagba was the communications director of the NPP. Is also reported to have said that he's disputed the result of research, saying it did not reflect the reality of how Ghanaians felt about NPP administration. He says, I have a problem with the poll itself, the measurements we are dealing with. I don't have confidence in it. It is something that should be taken on its face value, but not a representative feeling of the people because of the research itself. I don't think it gives us a clear picture of people's views presently in the country. And buttressing his point by quoting a question from the questionnaire used, he stressed that the methodology used by Global Info Analytics for the research was problematic and did not allow respondents to give a clear impression of the direction of the country. And he then cited a recent report by the World Economic Governance Index. Well, it's something that we can look at shortly. But I have Mr. Musa Dankwa, who's the head of polling at Global Info Analytics, on this particular issue, so that we can really try and put to rest some of these issues. Good morning, Musa.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm sure that, first of all, for those who do not know about your organization, I mean, what is Global Info Analytics?
Global Info Analytics is a market research and data company. We do market research, public opinions, and also we do political risk forecasting for investors.
How long have you been doing this?
We've been doing this for the past, I think, almost 5 years now. 2019, March, we were set up.
Okay. What are some of the key polls that you have conducted?
In fact, we conducted a poll in the 2020 elections, just days before the elections were held. And we also conducted a poll in the NPP primaries, the last delegate polls. We also conducted a poll on the e-levy before the government went on to a frenzy to engage the public.
Let's look at 2020 elections and the NPP primaries. How did the results of your poll reflect in the actual outcome?
Days before the elections, our polls were indicating that Nana Addo was going to prevail with 50.4%. plus or minus 1.9% margin of error. And he got 51.3%.
What about NPP primary?
In the NPP primaries, we said Dr. Bawumia was going to get 58.4 plus 1.9% margin of error. That is 60.3 or 60.4, and he got 61.3.
Okay. Now, you have released the results of the latest poll that you conducted, and there are different angles to it. I'm sure that you've seen today's edition of the Daily Graphic, where the issues of what voters prioritize, economy, roads, jobs, and others, has come up. And then you're supposed to be on a panel, according to the story, you were on a panel with Dr. Rashid Pelpo and Mr. Richard Ahiagba of the NDC and NPP respectively. And Mr. Ahiagba disputed the results of your research. He says it did not reflect the reality of how Ghanaians felt about the NPP-led administration. Quote, I have a problem with the poll itself, the measurements we are dealing with. I don't have confidence in it. It is something that should be taken on its face value, but not a representative feeling of the people because of the research itself. I don't think it gives us a clear picture of people's views presently in the country. And he says the methodology used by your institution for the research was problematic and did not allow respondents to give a clear impression of the direction of the country. And we also have seen a presser by the campaign team of Dr. Baumia, and they say that your survey appears incomplete and fails to provide adequate insights into the electorate's opinions. And they indicate deficiencies in your methodology and execution. Quote, there is not a single organization that is an authority over electoral polling, and we have about 4 to 6 of them that we work with. And unfortunately, this particular poll you reference is one that we have never received the indices that they use. We don't have much that we can do about that particular one because it doesn't tell us much and looks scanty and really doesn't tell of a polling that was done properly. First of all, can you take us through your methodology and execution and then address these concerns as well?
All right, thank you very much for having me. Global Informatics, people can testify, is the only polling company in Ghana that has ever produced its research methodology well in advance before the polls are conducted. We also publish our research instrument or survey instrument well in advance for all to see the kind of questions we ask, whether they are leading or misleading questions. And then also, we are the only ones that tell everybody where the polls will be conducted throughout the country. We, in fact, provide the constituencies, and indeed, those who contact us, we are able to tell them which electoral area we're going to go to. All is done in transparent way. In terms of methodology, it is very important that we understand that the sampling size or the sample size is the fundamental data that has to be resolved from the beginning. And how do we calculate the sample size? It is mathematical. It's not by intuition or somebody's imagination. Now, if you take the sampling that we use, 6,128, it is the result or the product of using 18.5 million voters as a variable and also picking 1.66% as our margin of error for this survey, and then a confidence level of 99%. When you run this input into a formula, you'll get the 6,128. So the issue of this sample inadequacy is resolved through mathematics. And secondly, once we decide on the national sample, we then allocate this national sample to each of the regions based on its contribution to the National Register of Voters. In effect, we are weighting the sample to represent the people who vote from that region. Once we are done with the regional sample allocation, we then go to the constituencies. We have a simulator, an inbuilt simulator that picks the number of areas we want to go to randomly without any human interference. We want to avoid the tendency of us picking areas we may feel, oh, we have to go here or go there. So it is done entirely random by a computer. Once we've selected the areas we want to go to from all the regions, then we allocate the sample size for each region to those constituencies for that region based again on the weight of that constituency relative to the rest. So it is weighted. And then when we go to the ground, we also pick electoral areas that we are going to poll. If we are doing a sample below 50 interviews, we go to one electoral area and do the sample in that electoral area. If we are doing between 50 and 100, we go to at least 2 electoral areas that will be picked randomly to visit. And then again, the samples are weighted based on the contribution of that electoral area to all the electoral areas in the constituency. If we are doing over 100 and up to 150 interviews, we go to at least 3 electoral areas. Again, the sampling are measured or distributed in that manner. And then when we hit the floor or we hit the ground, we stand at junctions where everyone has a chance of being interviewed. Junctions, car park, markets, workplaces, and interview people randomly we see on the street. We don't pre-select anybody before we interview them. And then the interviews are conducted using devices, tablets, phones, and the rest. So we are able to see real-time data, the information that is coming through. And that is also equipped with GPS. So we can tell exactly where each officer is standing. If you go to a place you're not supposed to go to, we will see from the GPS location, and we'll call you and fix that problem. So we have built in several steps to ensure that the data is valid, it represents the people we are going to engage, and that there's no biases in the data. And again, we don't interview groups of people. Even if we meet a group of people sitting, we only pick one person from that group and interview that person and go somewhere else and continue with the work, just to ensure that we're not picking group thinking in the polls. So as far as we are concerned, I think we've done a lot to ensure that our sampling is scientific, is rigor, and methodology is always being refined as we go along. There's no single methodology that is perfect for all. As time goes on, it is refined. So this is what we have done to deal with the issue of sampling and methodology. With the issue that have been raised as the views not representing those of Ghanaians, this morning we have published 3 data, and those data points to time sets in the history of this country. We have produced a data about voters' view about the direction of the country, about their standard of living, and who they intend to vote for. What we are telling people that at each point of this data set, we could tell you what happened in the country. For example, in January 2022, all was well. And then in April 2022, e-levy was passed. And you can see the reaction of voters when the e-levy was passed. Those who think the country was headed in the wrong direction went up. Those who think lifestyle was getting harder went up. It went up and up and up, depending upon the situation we found ourselves in. And then if you remember, October 2022, thereabout, the city made a stunning, remarkable recovery against the major currencies. And at that point, people's views about where we're headed and the standard of living changed and responded positively to those indices that was happening in the country. And if you watch the who do you intend to vote for, John Mahama's performance moves in the same direction as the rest of the country, who said it's very badly headed, or those who think that the country's the standard of living is getting worse. So you can see a relation between these 3 data sets. If the data actually reflects the grounds, believe me, they will not move in the same direction. This is the scientific way of seeing whether the data reflects the true reality or just somebody's imagination. And then again, as data, those who work with data, if your sampling is not rigorous, it's not very representative, the curve you have every time will be going up, down, up, down, up, down. It will be doing zigzag. If you check our chart, they are smooth. It means that the sampling is accurate, methodology is sound and consistent, and that it will only produce such results if a lot has gone in to deliver that kind of report.
Now, so let me just ask you this. One of the issues that were also that was also raised had to do with the questionnaire, the way some of the questions are structured, and they say that it did not allow respondents to give a clear impression of the direction of the country. Have you heard of this critique?
All right, Randy, we ask close-ended questions, and our questions are direct and straight. The party should not expect us to do all their work for them. We give them a lead, and you as a researcher, you cannot cover every hypothesis in a survey.
True.
But you provide a guide that allows somebody else to take a further step to probe those issues further. On the issue of the type of question, if you read our questionnaire, you will see that it is absolutely clear that there is no ambiguity in it. Now, the only question we find sometimes troubling for people is when we ask them about the direction of the country. In that instance, our field officers are trained not to give negative or positive examples. But that could lead voters to give a misleading answer, or they might think you want certain positive answer. So what we do ask them in that instance is that in terms of the direction of the country, when you see everything going on in this country in its totality, from education, health, economy, jobs, what have you, do you believe that the country is headed in the right direction or wrong direction? We don't give any hint of whether we want a positive or negative feedback, because we were I mean, we are aware that that will lead to people giving us something that they don't necessarily believe in. And I think that's the only question that we really think we have to provide those kind of examples to guide people. The rest of them are quite straightforward and simple questions. Okay.
Now, Musa, let me ask you something which has to do with stakeholder relations. Obviously, you would consider the political parties, you consider civil society, you consider the media as stakeholders in what you do, especially when some of these issues are raised. Some might be on the basis of a misunderstanding, some might be just ignorance, some might be just partisanship or just political talk. But do you engage these stakeholders to explain what your work is about?
Yes, in fact...
and to also get feedback from them.
Yes, let me give you an example. Whenever we want to do any poll on education, and we frame the question, we always consult EduWatch, my good friend Kofi Asari.
Right.
And Kofi Asari will refine the question for us to make sure that there's no ambiguity in the question. Because, you know, those ones are policy-driven questions. And we don't want to be caught pants down on that. So we consult some of them at a certain point in time, depending on the question we are going to ask. On education, our go-to person is EduWatch. He can confirm that. But with regard to political parties, look, we don't want to be talking to them at that level, because what we are doing really is for them to use it. And the questionnaire we publish, it is well ahead of the polls. And if they have any questions or issues or concerns, our numbers are there. None of them has ever called us to complain.
Have you ever engaged the political parties?
There are some who have called us to come and do presentation for us on the numbers we've published. Some have refused to call us. But it's okay. So for us, we are doing a service not only to ourselves, because we need that data ourselves to do our work. Because when we are doing the risk forecasting, we need those data. And we cannot mislead our clients by putting out the misleading data. That will be against our very survival as a company.
Now, Musa, let's zero down to your current work, the findings of your current work. What are the key findings and how do they compare to the previous one?
Right. The key findings are around 3 issues. 1, direction of the country. 65% of voters believe Ghana is still headed in the wrong direction. Even though this is a slight improvement from the last period, which was 68%. So a slight drop of 3%. And then those who said their lifestyle or their living standards has gotten worse in the last 12 months is now 51%. It was 54% last time, a slight drop. So you can see the direct relation between the rest of the country and standard of living of people. And then economy, jobs, and education remain top 3 priorities for voters. They say it will be influencing them when they go to the polls. And the top is jobs, followed by economy, and you have education, and then roads, of course. These are the issues that will influence voters. And then when we ask them who they intend to vote, and you see, we do something we call unprompted recall, which those of you who have done marketing know. We want to know the true choice of voters if they were given the chance to vote. So we ask them, if the election were held today, who would you vote for? We don't give them the names or the photos. We want to hear from them what name they will mention, and then our field officers will take the name they have mentioned. It's totally unprompted, natural. So what you see there in the report is a natural response from the 6,128 voters that we interviewed. And on that note, John Mahama is leading with 54% of the vote. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on 35% roughly of the vote. Alan Chiramatin 7.5%. And Nana Kwambide 2.3% of the vote. Now, the interesting revelation that has come from this poll is the division that we have seen within the NPP ranks and the solid unity of NDC for their own candidate. Roughly 83% of MPP voters intend to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. For NDC, it is 96%. Now, crucially, among floating voters, 59% of them intend to vote for John Mahama. That is staggering. That is an improvement of about 6% from last poll. And then the entrance of Nana Kwame Bediako has also shown that NPP is becoming more vulnerable in their strongholds of Ashanti region and Eastern region, where Kwame Bediako now does 5% of Eastern region, and that is huge. And if you look into the data, about 27% of support for Bediako comes from Eastern region. More than 15% comes from Ashanti region. And you take Alan Chiramatin, 27% of all his votes come from Ashanti region. Another 17 or so come from Eastern region. These are the strongholds of NPP, and that place at the moment is on fire.
Now, Musa, I have this text from the flag bearer of the APC, Mr. Hassan Ayariga. You've dealt with some of the issues, but I'll still read his text and then let you respond to it because he's watching. He says, how can you sample 6,125 people's opinion out of 80 million people, 9 months to election, and assume it will be the result of the 2024 general election? It is obvious to get high sample votes from a certain political party in their strongholds. The methodology and timing is wrong because they are discouraging Ghanaians to make bold decisions in the 2024 elections and rather favoring other political parties. This is from Mr. Hassan Ayariga.
Yes, I heard him yesterday on TV3 as well, one of the stations. My response to that is that we don't go to anybody's stronghold. We go to areas because in the electoral register of the EC, those are the contributors of the vote. So if elections are held today, those areas will turn out the big numbers. And then also on the question of the sampling size, I think we have proven to you from this discussion that the sample size is not based on opinion, but science of mathematics.
Yes.
And if I want to refer him to one country that has used polling for the past 100 years, it's United States of America. They have 120 million voters. The largest sample I've seen from them, from Emerson polling organization, is 6,000 samples. That is a country with 120 million voters. We have 18.5 million voters. Now, he's concerned that some parties, people may be discouraged from voting other parties. It is not about encouraging or discouraging. It's about letting the public know the views and perception of voters. Without us, or that opinion poll, nobody knows who is thinking about what. And for what we are doing is clearly opening up the governance of this country, making democracy more transparent than it has ever been. It's not our interest to tell someone to vote for anybody.
All right, Musa, I don't know if my panelists have a question for you. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. They don't have one for you. So, Musa, happy Eid.
Eid Mubarak.
And I wish you the very best. I hope that the discipline and piety of Ramadan will bring you a lot of blessings as well. And I'm hoping to have you in the studio one of these days so we can have a very comprehensive look at the work of Global Info Analytics and also draw some global comparisons just to help people understand the research space much better.
We are always available.
All right. Okay. So that's Musa Danko. I was the head of polling at Global Info Analytics. We'll take a break. When we return, we have an outstanding issue on corruption and then the issue of polling and the issues that have been raised about it. We'll be back shortly. And then we'll also look at Global Info Analytics.
As a matter of fact, I have just two small points to make.
Right.
And the first one is that corruption is a function of privilege.
Privilege. Okay. Explain that.
I will. And if you accept that corruption is a function of privilege, then the way to fight corruption is to eliminate privilege, you know. Now, there are 32 or 33 million of us, you know, in Ghana as Ghanaian citizens. And there's a contract which is to be awarded. You select 1 out of 32. No matter how you do it. You understand? You can do it electronically, you can do it anyway, no matter how you do it. That process, the outcome of that process, necessarily establishes a bias. You understand? Any selection process is a process of establishing a bias. Okay. Now, we live in a country where the signature of one person can, at least at the level of theory, transform a pauper into a multi-millionaire in a twinkle of an eye. Now, look at how we award contracts in this country. Let's say that a chief director at the ministry is awarding a contract, is signing a document which awards a contract worth 1 billion cedis to somebody. That chief director's pay, how much is it? And because the process of selection itself establishes biases, and people directly or indirectly benefit from biases and so on, it emphasizes the point of corruption being a function of privilege. I will not go beyond that, there isn't even enough time. Now, the other point I want to make is the point that my brother has made, so forcefully about the Ghana card. There's a problem with that point. I've heard it so many times. What is the Ghana card? The Ghana card is only a confirmation of identity. It is not a passport. It doesn't give you a passport. So if you're applying for a passport and you have a Ghana card, the Ghana card doesn't do more than a birth certificate does.
Maybe it has details that a birth certificate does not have.
Still, its function is the establishment of identity, confirmation of identity.
Yes.
That's all it does. So if you have a Ghana card and you're applying for a passport, you still have to apply. Passports are not given to people who have not applied.
No, you apply.
You apply.
Yes, you apply.
In much the same way that you apply.
You apply.
Without
even in terms of photographs.
Exactly. Yeah. You apply. Okay. Now, if you applied for the issuance of a Ghana passport and 5,000 people have applied, and the principle of first come, first serve is being applied, you'll be in the queue. You can't jump the queue. You can't do anything.
It will only be an electronic queue. The queue will move from physical to electronic.
Even that is problematic because the process still entails being captured, your photograph being captured.
Yeah, you can upload the photograph.
Okay, whatever. Okay. But then there can be the introduction of other checks and so on, which will require physical presence.
No, that's not what Dr. Baumia is proposing. He's proposing that the Ghana card in its present state captures all the details that is required in a passport. And so what you do is that you just state your Ghana card number, apply for the
and let them pull the data.
And then they pull the data from the Ghana card that goes onto your passport.
So what it means? Does it therefore mean that some of the information that a passport requires, that a Ghana card does not require, will be discarded? So, for example, the issue of in case of emergency or something, there's a name and a number and relationship that you put on.
Exactly.
Then there's the issue of even grandparents. If you check your passports, this thing, they go beyond your parents. So even grandparents and their addresses and all that. Those are things that a Ghana card does not ask you for. Does it mean that,
but so that's what I'm saying. The main details are the biometric.
If my brother will allow me to
finish, so I just wanted to
understand. I mean, Randy, I think that you raised a very important point. I know that the process of acquiring a Ghana card requires information about your parents and so on. So that is dealt with. But persons to contact in cases of emergency and so on, you are right.
And a passport even requests grandparents.
Exactly.
Even beyond parents.
So you are absolutely right on that. What I'm saying is that today, most applications for passports are done online.
Oh yeah.
Today, as we sit here.
No, yes.
So what does the passport office do? It just takes your online application and feeds the data into their processes.
The only thing The only thing is that they ask you to, when they give you a slip, they give you an appointment date.
To come in.
And then ask you to come and take a photograph. So the only thing is the fact that you have to go there for a photograph.
But even that, there's a problem. You know, as we grow, our features change. So the photograph you have taken for your Ghana card is not for all time.
Well,
it's not for all time. Please. So you may have a Ghana card, and the passport office will still insist
in fact, Kwasi,
on recapturing your image.
Kwasi, in fact,
dependent on the time lapse.
Kwasi, for frequent travelers, so let me use myself. So I have a passport, which is a 5-year-old passport, but within 2 years, my passport is full, and I need a new passport. By the rules, I have to take another picture.
Exactly.
They will not even use the picture that I had. I mean, to do a new passport.
No. They
you
will
have to take a new picture. But the point you're making is that as we speak today, if you're filling a passport form, you'll do it electronically.
Yeah.
The only difference is that you go there for the picture to be taken. So if there is anything that will eliminate people going to the particular offices physically, it will be about asking people to upload a picture, like giving them the specification for the picture and uploading it, and that will be the end. That will be the end, because even if you're going to use a Ghana card, there will still be a process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
the
point.
So the only difference, the only reason why you will go to the passport office today is because of the photo.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, and you will still go even if you have a Ghana card, which was issued 3 years ago.
Yeah, so until they take out that photo regime.
You understand? So
the point,
I honestly think that this whole issue about how to get passports with Ghana card and so on is just, please excuse my language, but that's the reality. Useless propaganda.
No, I disagree.
No, absolutely.
I disagree.
Propaganda.
I think that, I mean...
What does it bring?
Randy.
I mean, the impression is created that if you have a Ghana card, the issuance of a passport is automatic. It is not.
No, it's not automatic. Of course, you would have to apply for it.
You have
but
to apply.
You don't have to go through the process of filling out a form that has the same details, because a Ghana card
how much time do you say by not filling a form?
If, for example, my
a form?
profession has changed, if my employment has changed from when I got a Ghana card, how does the passport deal with that?
Yeah, but Randy,
even if it doesn't change,
the present passport that I hold is for 10 years.
Yes.
It can happen that through that period, my profession will change.
Yes, true.
Nobody actually goes back to a passport office and says that I've changed from so and so.
True.
I can even be a Presbyterian pastor.
So after the 10 years.
Yes, exactly.
If you go to, I'm saying, after the 10 years, if you go to renew your passport,
you would update those details.
How do you do that?
No, after 10 years.
You update your Ghana card first.
No, what I mean is that after 10, so we have that same regime as we speak.
Yes.
And if I have a passport today and it's going to expire in 10 years' time, I will not necessarily go to the passport office to say that my profession has changed and now I'm a priest to start with. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so these are details. You have a system where these things with technology you'll be able to do so. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, and so I'll take that as a joke.
It's not a joke. I'm prophesying your life.
Amen.
He's already one. He doesn't have to wear a cassock to become one.
He's a technology priest.
Right. And so I think that we can have those conversations as we go ahead. But my link even to the Ghana card is that there are certain things that technology does that takes away the human interface. That also would sort of reduce, probably not prevent corruption in its entirety.
My only point is that if you look at the passport regime today, the only interface really where you do not have technology coming in is going there to take the picture.
Yeah, but Randy, but the point is that
you don't get what
I agree with you.
And with that one, I'm saying that it is not a Ghana card that replaces that.
Yes.
If you decided that from now on, you will be able to upload, in fact, there is even this thing for uploading your picture. Yeah. But I don't know the reason why they still insist that people should come there. When you go there, you would find national security personnel and no other people at that point. So I do not know. I even want us to interrogate the reason why. If we can do everything online and there is there is a portion where you can even upload your photograph. Why we still need to come there physically for the photograph to be taken? There must be a reason.
Yeah, there must be.
Especially with the presence of national security.
Yes. I mean, just to validate it, or maybe some unscrupulous people trying to gain, also using somebody else's identity and all of that. I'm sure that is a reason. But you can authenticate some of these things, even using technology, and that also works. Right. I mean, so my point is that this technology...
Let's move to global info analytics, yes.
Okay. So, Randy.
Yes.
I mean, if I put on my research hat...
Put both on. For the purpose of this discussion, put both
If I put on my research hat...
Yes.
And even my political hat, I will not sort of poo-poo anybody that has taken the time to do any kind of research. Because research as it is, I mean, for all this work, is extremely difficult and it requires some technical ability to be able to do so. And for us, even as a government, a political party, and as a campaign, I think that Miracle's communications director for the campaign was very emphatic that we will not dismiss any polls that is brought to the fore. But it will also not be a very serious campaign if we do not activate or commission research ourselves, or we don't even have access to research and data to, one, prosecute our campaign. You understand what I'm saying? So we will take all of these things in good faith. In any case, it points out certain key things when it comes to sentiments, language, posturing, and all that, as far as I'm concerned, any campaign will take note and then deal with it. My challenge is that if you do these things probably 6, 7, 8 months prior to the actual election, there's always a tendency for either inaccuracy because things change, people's sentiments change. Sometimes the focus is on the popularity of a candidate rather than the policy positions that are being preferred. People have not really gotten in tune with the whole political season yet, so they're not even analyzing the policy positions properly. They haven't gotten an opportunity to listen to the candidates and all of that. So my personal view is that we're not going to throw away anybody that presents us some kind of information. But that does not mean that we also take this thing hook, line, and sinker. So let's assume that we have 2 or 3 or 4 research ongoing that's available to us. We'll definitely do a triangulation to understand and see where there are common themes and common things that are running across. And then we'll deal with that accordingly as a campaign. I'll share, I mean, I'm sure, Randy, you know the famous Coca-Cola and Pepsi research.
Yes.
You know, where you put the two, and it's like original containers, and everybody was saying that, oh, the Coca-Cola tastes better. And then they swapped it and put it in different, the same content but different bottles, and it still went back to the Coca-Cola. However, when they put it in the unmarked containers, the research changed. Then all of a sudden the people were saying that the Pepsi was tasting better. You understand? There's even an example of when we did some work called Daisy, which was for one of the companies I used to work for. You know, good old Milo, right? The Milo that we consume, we've been consuming as kids. So there was this insight that suggested that people actually like their Milo crunchy.
They call it grill.
Yes, they would like it so crunchy. It's a very interesting research. And then, over the period, the equipment and machinery that was used by Nestle at the time changed. So the Milo became finer and all of those things. Then people were actually complaining that, oh, the Milo is not the same, it doesn't taste right. Because cocoa powder and all of those things. But you know what's interesting? When you go back into the real insight of the research, it turned out that the consumer actually preferred the new finer Milo because it actually dissolves quickly. But there always some sentiment or some attachment to probably things to do with nostalgia, all of these things and everything. So for me, from my experience with research, yes, don't discount anything. But it behoves of us as a campaign to do a proper deep dive on the various key components of this research that is ongoing, and also be confident in our prosecution of a campaign that comes 7th December 2024, when we go to the polls, would have done enough to prosecute a campaign that will win us the elections. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't think that there was any, if like, malice intended from the part of the communication director to poo-poo this thing. And in any case, what is even reported to have said was actually an extempo, was a question that was thrown by a colleague, one of the colleague journalists, who was supposed to have even stuck to the reason why we were at the press conference to start with. Decided to ask a question about polls, and he gave an answer. I believe that, yes, it's important that we do these things. We analyze the data. You'll find areas where you'll be able to improve on your strengths. In areas where you have weaknesses, you go there and deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I'm not sure that this is really a major topic for conversation. We will do whatever is necessary for us to be able to get the information that is required for a campaign to prosecute.
Kwasi?
Well, first of all, we have to deal with the problem of generalizations.
Yes.
I think that generalizations constitute a huge problem. And I'll use your Milo example. If we assume that all consumers of Milo want the material dissolved, we are wrong.
Oh, no, yeah, of course, it's a...
You understand? Because as we were growing up, we wanted to chew the Milo, not to dissolve it. You understand? So there's certain reason why people would prefer Milo which is crunchy. Yeah. Because they chew it. You understand? So that's to deal with generalizations and so on. Now, I think it's important for us to understand clearly that this research, these surveys, are perception measurement instruments. Clearly, they are perception measurement instruments. And perceptions themselves have the character of assumptions. Okay. And if you understand it that way, then we can move forward. Now, my brother indicated that, or said, that we need to accept all of these surveys, all of these perception indicators, and work with them. I disagree. If for a period of 30 years, there's a perception measurement institution or organization which has had it wrong all the time, their work has no value. Especially when the margins of error have been so huge.
Extremely high.
You know, they have no value. You don't take them into account.
Of course, yeah.
I take global info analytics very, very seriously. Because over the last 5 years, everything they have said, written, surveyed, has been either on point or very, very close to the point. You know, when you're talking to Musa Dankwa, he did not mention their predictions on the Asin.
Yeah. North.
No. Very, very close. Almost accurate. So when you're dealing with a research institution...
If you add the margin of error, it makes it accurate.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're dealing with a research institution like that, you have to respect them. Because there's a consistent record of 5 years. And they don't do one research per year. In fact, last year, if I'm not mistaken, I counted about 4. Maybe I didn't get to see all their surveys. But they always come close. Even with the NPP primaries, they were the only research group which came very, very close to the actual results. You understand? So for an organization like that, I think that we've got to respect them and to treat their work seriously.
You know, fortunately, sorry,
yes.
But fortunately, you see, we have a situation where we even have the opportunity of critiquing methodology, sampling, questionnaire, and all those things. In all those previous polling and all the polling, you don't even have the opportunity of even seeing this for you to even critique. Whether the criticism is born out of ignorance or whatever, at least they have put out ahead of time, this is what we are going to do. This is the sample size. This is why we have that sample size. These are the questionnaire. This is what we are going to do. So that that's why you have the opportunity of even critiquing it. In this country, what you hear is that some so something, they say, oh, they've done some polling. It's this and that and that and that. End of story.
We are even using online polling, which is just restricted to people who are online to make judgments.
In fact, for some of them, there is no way of even preventing a person from doing it more than once.
Yeah. And even that we use it, to make judgments and so on. Now, this whole argument about sample size and so on is so pedestrian. I think we should just drop it. Because if you look at all the other major research institutions around the world and so on, the sample size used by global info analytics is much higher than what many of
mathematically and scientifically
much
the
higher.
Threshold.
Yes. So I think we should drop it. It's so pedestrian.
I'm sure people don't even know that the highest sample size used in a U.S. election is 6,000 for a country that has 120 million registered voters. So that people think that 120 million registered voters to get to be able to do a poll, then you must be dealing with 50%.
But Randy, the only thing with the U.S. Example is the number of times these polls are done. And you understand? So like you have like Gallup. Gallup probably has the capacity to do a poll every day.
But these guys, if you watch their polling, you would see.
No, I'm just saying.
Even for this year, this will be like the second.
No, but I'm saying that when you, that's just, I'm just like, so they have the capacity to basically do the 6,000.
Yes.
Every day. You understand what I'm saying? With your hands. So
these guys are able to, at least they've demonstrated that they are able to do it multiple times, not once. And that's how you can see the change. That's why when I asked him to give us the highlights, I asked him to match it against the previous one. And you realize that he gave us a sequential approach to it too. They did it even before, after Dr. Bawumia held his presser, then those changes, and then after. So it's something that they've been doing periodically, which also gauges the mood and takes into consideration happenings between two periods.
But also, I mean, there are these politicians and political actors who actually believe that what the polls say is what determines election outcomes. I think they are living in cuckoo's land. You understand? Some of the parties that I know, let the polls give them 100% and see what they get at the polls. So the polls do not determine how many votes political parties get. You understand? They are a gauge of perception about the likely performance of political parties, and that is what they are. Finished. Now, I have had the privilege of sitting down with Musa Dankwa face to face, one-on-one.
Oh, really?
Yes. And having a discussion which lasted over an hour. I don't think that I'm a fool. I think you can say many things about me. One of the things that I would not accept is that I'm a fool.
F-O-O-L.
F-O-O-L. Okay. I don't think that I'm a fool. Now, after sitting down and having discussions with Musa Dankwa, one impression that I left with is that he worries very much about his integrity. The protection of his integrity is the core of his thoughts and actions. And I'll be very surprised if he's doing what some others have done in the past. I don't see how that can happen based on my interaction with him. There's a certain very high level of honesty in his understanding of the work he's doing, in how he works and so on. And I would credit him. I would give him a lot of credibility on the basis of my personal knowledge and on the basis of my evaluation of his work over the last 5 years. since we got into this dispensation, 1991-92, nobody, no institution has gained the credibility that Global Info Analytics has gained. And I say that emphatically, you understand? And I think I know what I'm talking about. So those who need these perception indicators for their work and so on, I think they should stop the propaganda, the hype, and so on, and focus on work which has been done by credible institutions like Global Info Analytics, and it will be helpful. You know.
Kwasi, our friend Mansa Musa in the UK.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He says he has a disagreement with your view on corruption. He says, I'm astonished by the fact that corruption didn't come up as a top issue for voters. According to the Global Info Analytics survey, it shows that Ghanaians do not know the cause of their illness. For the first time, I totally disagree with Comrade Kwasi Pratt. Corruption is the cause of all our woes. I'll find time to explain. Says good morning from Mansa Musa.
It's good to hear from our friend Mansa Musa, you know. But look, let me make this suggestion to him. If you live in a French-speaking African country, or a former French colony, and you have to deposit all your foreign reserves in the Central Bank of France, the fight against corruption doesn't change it if there are no structural changes. You cannot live in a new colony and pretend that fighting corruption, what is fighting corruption? Fighting corruption is getting these pastors who themselves, you know, and so on, sermonizing about corruption and so on. The problem now that we face, corruption is a problem, as I said from the beginning, but it is not the main problem. Randy, let me show you one of the main problems. We are in a part of the world where we are actually sitting on enormous resources. Sitting on gold, diamond, bauxite, lithium. Mention them. Okay. Unfortunately for us, all of these resources are non-renewable. You can't plant gold. You can't plant diamonds and so on. Now, today, these resources are being extracted and exported. Look at our current situation. Can you imagine 50 years from now, 60 years from now, 70 years from now, when we have dug all these resources and deposited them elsewhere? What will happen to us? That would not be a function, what will happen to us would not be a function of corruption, but a function of a system of economic and social development which enables others to take these resources out for free, virtually for free. Okay? Our current condition is also the direct result of slavery, of classical colonialism, and of neocolonialism.
Are we not making excuses for our leaders?
Are we making excuses?
There's a corruption of leadership.
I'm not saying that there's no corruption.
Yes.
I'm saying that there is.
Yes.
But it is not the only and main problem. That's the point I'm making.
Well, for many, they believe that irrespective of all these problems, if our level of corruption and greed was not at where it is today, we could still have made some serious strides.
What strides?
That we could have still...
The surpluses you generate does not belong to you. The surpluses you generate does not go into road construction. The surpluses you generate does not go into improve your health care. The surpluses you generate has nothing to do with the educational system you run. That is the problem.
So what do you say to those who say
we are talking about, when we talk about corruption, so what are we talking about? We are talking about the accumulation of surpluses and who benefits from the surpluses.
Yeah, but
the very system we run allows a tiny minority to accumulate the surpluses and to use the surpluses for their own benefit and not for the benefit of society.
Is it not for the reason of people in leadership wanting to be a part of this tiny minority that they also fail to do the things that must be done, especially when they know about these things.
You make it a moral issue.
They speak, no, I'm saying they know about these things. They speak about them. They tell us that this is the way out. Yet when they assume the reins of power, they do worse. And they do worse because they also stand to benefit individually.
Randy, you make it a moral issue. I'm saying that it is not a moral issue. It's a structural problem.
No, but who changes the structure? It is leadership. People, we all.
So if you have leaders who are not changing the structure, summonizing on corruption doesn't change the structure. Sack the leaders.
I'm saying that they don't change the structure because they want to benefit from it.
The leaders have never told us that they want to change the structure.
Really?
When a leader comes to you,
yes,
and he says that my whole philosophy is property owning.
Yes.
How does that change the structure of exploitation? The leaders have always been honest with us. One thing our leaders have always been is that they've been very honest with us. The promises they make, this is where it will take us. When you have somebody come to you and say that, look, I want to be president of Ghana, vote for me to become president of Ghana. That my whole ambition, my dream, is to take the sea from Kolegono to Kumasi. And you go and vote for the president, the system doesn't change. Who are you blaming?
Okay, all right. Let me just. There's a few views on the two issues that we've dealt with. Let me just bring them up. So let me make this point. You know, when I'm discussing the issue of a passport and Ghana card and all those things, I kept making the point about photograph. So the reasons are actually two. There's a photograph and your biometrics. Yes. Why you have to go there. Okay. So Apostle Ben Mensah says that discrediting a survey for the elections will not help a candidate to win. An election survey helps a candidate to address its messaging and targeting of electorates. Pre-election surveys, exit polling during elections, and post-election results. The tool necessary for a democratic exercise. A serious political campaign takes election surveys seriously. Just interrogate scientifically the sampling and methodology used for the survey. And says Ghana card identifies and confirms identity of a person due to biometric information of the holder. Okay. Now, my brother Lionel in London says, I think based on what Eric is saying, there's a need to separate process and systems audits from the financial audits, so they can focus on findings and improvements from the processes. So this is a quality assurance guru. So he's a quality assurance guru. That's why he eats and sleeps. An engineer has become a quality assurance guru. Okay. So Mark Kojobuafu says the lawyer is wrong in his assertion that Ghana's laws encourage corrupt practices. What is bribery? Bribery is the act of offering, giving, receiving, or soliciting something of value in exchange for an illicit advantage or to influence a decision. It is a form of corruption and is illegal in most countries. Bribery can take many forms, including offering a bribe to a public official to influence a decision, accepting a bribe as a public official, giving or receiving kickbacks, making illegal payments to secure a contract or advantage. Bribery undermines fair competition, distorts decision-making processes, and can lead to unfair outcomes. It also erodes trust in institutions and can have serious consequences for individuals and organizations. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption defines bribery as the promise, offering, or giving to a public official directly or indirectly of an undue advantage for the official himself or herself or another person or entity in order that the official act or refrain from acting in the exercise of his or her official duties. So it's both ways. The giver and the taker are both wrong. So that's Mark Kojobuafu, who makes it a point to wake up that early in the States to watch us every single day. Okay, so Adelaide says that informed myself that corruption has become part and parcel of our lives and has comatose us to accept it as a norm, not exception. We cannot think our way out of it yet. Corruption is the way out of poverty in Ghana. So that's
this your friend, our friend.
Mazauza.
No, Mark
Kojobuafu.
Kojobuafu.
Yes.
I mean, anytime I come to sit here,
yes,
he remains in my consciousness.
Okay.
You know, as somebody who is making extraordinary efforts, you know, to watch us. And not just to watch us, to evaluate, you know, what we say and so on. And that's some pressure. You know, yes, it's quite some very serious pressure. He makes you aware that we are not just here talking. And that what you're saying is being evaluated, and people are making extra efforts to watch and listen. That's a lot of pressure he puts on us.
It's one of the things I like about doing this job. You know, the feedback, and where the feedback comes from all facets of our lives, from people who you don't know, from people whose backgrounds you don't know, and from people who are at the highest level of our society, cut across. And
some people who are far more knowledgeable than those of us who come.
I mean,
far more knowledgeable than those of us who come to sit here.
Most of our audience are more knowledgeable than us.
Yes.
We just have the opportunity
to get it.
Anyway, but just to inform you that we'll be rounding up on the show shortly, but we'll be taking live after this show. We'll be taking you to the GB Hall at Gimpa for the official launch of the performance tracker by the government of this republic, and it's going to be done by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So it's 10 a.m. at the GB Hall Gimpa, and so it's right after Good Morning Ghana. In the next 5 minutes, we'll be bringing you the a live telecast of the official launch of the performance tracker. So, gentlemen, we'll leave it here.
Thank you.
We'll leave it here, and then I hope to see you next week. Enjoy the holiday. As what Kwasi there, you are more than a Muslim. You live with them. You speak the language.
Which is the language?
You speak the most dominant language in the community, which is Hausa.
I've already gotten my invitation to
a Salah party.
Of course, yes. My friend Munkala.
Okay.
Yes.
I've had no invitation.
You've had no invitation. You have like a million Muslim friends.
Yeah, but
maybe you get one from Dr. Bawumia.
Did you wish the president happy birthday?
I did. My last show. So that was the day before his birthday.
Oh, okay.
So I did, yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I was not in the location.
Yeah.
80.
Yes.
That's a major stride.
Yeah.
80.
Yeah, 80.
Hey. Nana, happy birthday.
Were you not at his party?
I got an invitation, but as I said, I was not in country.
Oh, okay. So you couldn't honor it.
Yeah, but happy birthday to Nana. This is the first time I'm wishing somebody happy birthday on your program. You know that.
Yes. Okay. Today is the 40th birthday of
Sami. Oh, yes. Sami Oko. Yeah, happy birthday, Sami.
And what is he doing? What is he doing?
That one I've not been to. It's Annie who sent it to me. Sami himself has not told me. I don't know.
But it's his birthday today.
My problem is that when these days are announced, nothing happens. Because if you announce these days, something shaggy should happen.
Maybe you spend the birthday with Musa Dampa. So, Sami, Julius Malema, happy birthday to
Sami
you.
is not a Julius Malema.
So it's, his early days when he was a youth leader. That was a nickname I gave him.
On what basis? Because ideologically,
those days he was, his Mojashiu, those days, his Mojashiu and we already have. So I call him Julius Malema, he calls me leader.
Which means I was calling you Jacob Zuma.
No. No. South African court has cleared him to contest elections.
No, he's been removed from the ballot. He cannot be on the ballot.
No, a court has cleared him.
When?
Just yesterday.
Oh, okay.
A court has cleared him.
Then he's going to cause problems in South Africa.
Yeah, so he's joining that other party.
MK.
Yes, MK.
Don't underestimate the popularity and influence of Jacob Zuma in South Africa.
Especially amongst the...
You cannot underestimate it. And he's going to give the ANC a lot of...
The ANC is already torturing. you know.
Well, many polls give the ANC around 40%.
See, for the first time. And
40%.
The shocking part is that if the ANC is getting to a point where now the issue of coalition and alliances will come up, it shows how low the ANC has.
The ANC has gotten to the position where, in at least one province, it has had to get into an alliance with the DA. That's how bad things have become in South Africa.
Anyway.
Can you imagine?
Okay. So, Samuel Oku, former Julius Malema, now you're not. Happy 40th birthday to you, and we wish you the very, very, very best. Wish you God's mercy, favor, and grace in all your endeavors. So that will be it. And for our Muslim brothers and sisters, happy Eid. Happy Eid to all of you. Chief Imam Sheikh Sharabutu. It's a difficult time having lost your wife a few weeks ago. I'm sure that this would be the time. You know, the last time I visited the Chief Imam, many years back, you would find the wife herself, you know, involved in the cooking. You know, he does food for those who fast but are not privileged, cannot even afford to break their fast. So in the Chief Imam's house, they cook, and it's his wife who leads the cooking. And they serve outside his house, they serve all those who want to break their fast but cannot afford to do it by themselves, yes. So I know that this will be quite a difficult time for you, but we know that God will grant you the strength. So happy Eid, Sheikh Sharabutu, and of course the head of the Amir mission. Happy Eid to you as well, and all our Muslim brothers and sisters. The Vice President,
the Chief Imam of the Shia Muslim community.
Yes, the Shia Muslim community.
Quite
so
a gentleman,
happy Eid to you, all my Muslim friends, all of them, the Sinaris, everybody. My man Cyborg is now a chief, so, and everybody else. Happy Eid, all my Muslim brothers and sisters. And there's a friend who always has a party that we always go to. You know, I'm sure that you know it very well. Oh, you know it. You
mention it so we can also go some. Who is that? So we can get crashed.
I give you a clue around Achimota.
Around Achimota. Is that Fatah?
Fatah. Adewu Fatah.
Yeah. And Abu Ramadan, what is he doing?
Which one?
There is only one Abu Ramadan.
Okay.
Or you know another?
Abu Nadmo, or his brother, the MP.
Abu Ramadan. There's
Nadmo.
only one. Nadmo, yes.
Okay. Is it the one who they say is...
That's the allegation which is
demolition man.
Yeah, but I understand.
I haven't seen Abu in like 7 years.
I haven't seen Abu in 6 years.
I haven't seen him like 7 years. Yeah.
6 years. I haven't seen Abu.
There's somebody
I didn't know that he had so much land. I would have gone for small portion.
So happy to all of you.
To
all
build
the
kiosk.
Kalsum, Farida, all of you. Happy. To all of you, all our Muslim friends, brothers and sisters. And we hope that all the sacrifices made over the 30-day period will also bring you personal blessings and, of course, blessings to this country and your various communities as well. Right, so that'll be it.
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far, so good. Say, open online portal, Ghana. Nipa share, Nipa follow, Nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.